Imagine sitting in a crowded room inches away from a stranger, reaching down and grabbing a dripping wet sea sponge tied to a wooden stick, a sponge that dozens of people have already used before you today. You don't get toilet paper, you don't get a private stall, and you don't get hand soap. Welcome to a normal morning in the glorious Roman Empire. Today, we view ancient Rome as a peak of engineering, famous for aqueducts, marble temples, and clean bathhouses. But behind the majestic stone arches lay a daily hygiene routine that would shock the modern world. So, how did millions of Romans actually wipe after using the toilet? And why did the most advanced empire on Earth rely on a shared communal sponge? To understand this, we have to step inside a public Roman toilet, known as a latrina. These weren't quiet, private individual rooms like we have today. They were large, open-air public spaces where up to 50 people sat side by side on long stone benches. There were no dividing walls, no doors, and zero concept of personal privacy. In fact, going to the toilet in Rome was a major social event. People would sit together for hours, discussing politics, gossiping about neighbors, and even making business deals. Beneath the stone seats, a continuous stream of water flowed through a deep underground trench to carry waste away, and directly in front of your feet, at ground level, ran a smaller, shallow channel of fresh water. This front gutter is where the most famous tool in Roman history came into play, the tersorium, also known as the xylospongium. It was simply a natural sea sponge tied securely to the end of a wooden stick. When a Roman finished their business, they didn't reach for paper or leaves. They grabbed the communal tersorium from a bucket resting on the latrine floor. This bucket was filled with heavily salted water or concentrated vinegar. You would reach through the keyhole opening in the front of the stone seat to clean yourself with the sponge. Once finished, you didn't throw the sponge away. You rinsed it off in the shallow stream of water flowing at your feet and placed it back into the bucket of salt or vinegar for the next stranger to use. To the Romans, storing the sponge in vinegar seemed like a brilliant way to keep it fresh, but in reality, this shared sponge was a massive biohazard nightmare. Vinegar and salt water could slow down some bacteria, but they could not kill intestinal parasites. Archaeological excavations of ancient Roman latrines have revealed a shocking truth. Despite their impressive sewers, Romans suffered from overwhelming infestations of whipworms, roundworms, and dysentery. The shared tersorium acted as a perfect vector, transferring parasites directly from one person to another all day long. To make matters worse, underground sewer gases like methane would frequently build up in the trenches below. Occasionally, a sudden spark from an open torch would ignite the gas, causing actual flames to burst out of the toilet holes. Roman latrines were so notoriously terrifying that people drew protective magical spells on the walls to ward off evil spirits. Sea sponges were expensive, meaning poorer Romans or soldiers in distant outposts couldn't always afford a tersorium. So, what did they use when a sponge wasn't available? They turned to whatever natural materials were nearby: moss, leaves, straw, or bucket water. But in coastal areas and military camps, archaeologists found something even more shocking: pessoi. Pessoi were small, smooth, oval-shaped pieces of broken ceramic pottery or smooth river stones. They would carefully scrape themselves clean using these recycled pottery fragments. An ancient Greek proverb even warned, 3 stones are enough to wipe. So the next time you unroll soft, clean private toilet paper in your bathroom, take a moment to appreciate modern sanitation. Be thankful you don't have to sit next to a stranger, reach into a bucket of vinegar, and share a single wet sponge on a stick with the rest of the city.